What's up, guys? I wanted to make a video today showing a little bit about how I set up my Stumpjumper EVO for the trails. I've definitely gone through and done a few particular things since I got it from stock, and wanted to show you a little bit about what works for me and what might work for you. Alright, so this is my 22 Stumpjumper EVO Expert. This is a carbon frame. It's a 29er front and rear. I'm riding an S3 size. I demoed an S4 and it felt equally as good, but I ended up landing on the S3. I've been riding this bike for almost a year now and it absolutely slays, let me tell you. I rode this bike stock for a few months after I purchased it, and honestly it performed great. The stock setup was just fine, but I went through and made a few little adjustments here. We'll start in the front. As you can see, I got Maxxis tires on here instead of the Butcher and Eliminator Specialized tires that were on. I got a 2.5 on. I believe the stock tire was a 2.3 or 2.4. So I bumped that up a little bit. I also got CushCore Pro in the front and rear. I think it's definitely a little much for most people. It's a little heavier of a setup than maybe the CushCore XCs or something like that. Never had any issues with them, but I've never ridden this bike without CushCore, so I'm curious if I like the feel of it more or not. Next thing we'll talk about here is the fork. I did add a mud guard. It hits just the right portion where it would normally fly up and smack you in the chest or the face, so it has been a good addition so far. As far as my settings, it's going to be a little different for everyone, but I have pretty much the base settings for my weight, and I've been tinkering with back and forth on that. Same thing with the low and high speed compression here. It's backed out a little bit from what the recommended settings are, and that changes all the time depending on what I'm riding. As far as the air pressure they recommended, I'm towards the lower range of it. I like a little bit more of a plush setup, and that goes for the rear shock as well. I've got just a little bit of compression on there and about what is recommended for the rebound. All right, as we work our way up here, I did change the spacers here that were stock. There was 2 here, I believe, and now there's only 1. And I like that little more uppity kind of feel with the bars. It's good for steeper stuff and more technical descents, in my opinion. Brakes are just the same. Honestly, I'm not a fan of these brakes at all. These are Code RS SRAM brakes, and most of the components on here are SRAM, and I'm more of a Shimano guy when it comes to brakes especially. These have been fine, a little too much modulation for me, but you definitely get used to them, and they seem to be powerful enough. I got the same deity grips on here. As you can see, they've been definitely worn through. This bike has seen a lot of miles, but they've worked great so far. I've ridden with and without gloves without an issue, so great grips. As we work our way down here, I did ride wrap this bike. Took about 8 hours and it was a total pain in the butt. Was it worth it? I think so. I think this frame will definitely last a little longer cosmetically, and it's nice to know that you got that extra protection as well. All right, working our way down here to the seat post. This dropper's been pretty nice, but I really wish that they spec'd a longer travel dropper on here. This chunk here I could use sometimes, that's for sure. But it's been a great dropper, very reliable. Just keep it greased up every now and then and she's good to go. No problems there. All right, working our way down here. One of my favorite things about this bike is definitely that you've got a SWAT tool here and a bunch of storage in the frame as well. Definitely use that all the time. I usually throw a shirt in there or the extra water bladder that comes with it. Super handy feature, and there's a lot of room on this bike. Working our way down, this is all stock. Haven't really touched much. As you can see, I've definitely been using this bike. Working our way back, everything is stock here. I do have a new rear tire as well. This is a 2.4, and I do like the Minion DHR2. It's been a pretty great tire, and the Assegai, probably my favorite front tire I've ever ridden. Now on to what most of you might be here for, is my geometry settings. I've kind of settled on a little bit of a unique setup here. I've got the low position in the rear, and I've got the slackest position on the head tube. So this is a long and low setup, and let me tell you, it is very capable. It's very confident feeling up front, especially when it gets steep and rowdy. And I really like the low feeling of the bottom bracket. and the slightly longer rear end has been no problem. I do get pedal strikes and smack my bottom bracket every now and then, but the feel of it back there is worth it for me. I switch back and forth between the high and low position quite often, more than I switch around the front. So it just feels like after a while, especially when you're getting a little faster on the bike and a little steeper sometimes, having that shorter, higher rear end is not my personal preference. But I could see how for most people, just leaving it in the high position is where it's at. Now up front, like I said, we do have it in the slackest position. I've tested all three positions. When it came, it was obviously in the neutral position, and that's definitely probably where most people should keep it. If you are riding steeper stuff, or this is more of a bike park bike for you, definitely slack it out. I definitely think it's worth it. I do believe in slack bikes. I think slack bikes like this will be the future, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's a quick rundown on my Stumpy EVO. A few things that I haven't changed yet that I would definitely want to change in the future. Number one would be these brakes, like I said. I like a snappier brake, and these are not it. Another thing, like I said, is that dropper post. I'd get a longer travel dropper post. Overall, though, there really isn't anything that drives me nuts or that I can't stand with it every day. When I got it stock, it was just fine, and the setup I have now is even a little better. And it's taken everything I've thrown at it and definitely will keep on trucking for a long time. So that was a quick rundown on my current setup here on the channel. If you like what you see, or if you want to see more content on this bike, I will be posting more soon. So yeah, thank you as always for watching, and if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Peace.